Dobrodošli svi na PTŠ podcast. Sa vama je Riste.
A sa vama je i Raša.
Zdravo još jednom na PTŠ podcast.
Zdravo Rile.
Zdravo Rale. Zdravo Iki. Zdravo Metju.
Hello.
Dobrodošao. Ne znam koji put, ali uvijek nam je drago da budeš sa nama. Sad su te upoznali slušalci, naši gledalci.
I čujem da je jedan od omiljenih. Kažu sažet, koncizan, direktan, jasan i možemo se složiti ne da mi kažemo da je...
Dobro je to da oni ne razume srpski da čuju.
Da ne bi...
da ne bi se neko uvredio,
da.
Ali možete vi da ostaviti komentar o tome. Tako da, u čemu se radi danas, Raša, podcast?
Pa danas Metju će da govori o Postanju 1 do 11.
Uh-huh.
To je velika materija, ali danas ćemo čuti o tome zašto je
to
Postanje, tačno, taj prvi deo Postanje 1 do 11, zašto je bitan. Metju će nam pokazati da jeste veoma bitan, tako da Metju, slobodno možeš da nam govoriš na tu temu i verujem da će nas zaintrigirati zaista mnogo.
Well, the reason why Genesis 1 to 11 is so important, a lot of people would say, modern people would say, well, it doesn't matter. It can be a myth or it can be spiritualized. It doesn't have to be literal.
Mm.
But when you look at Genesis 1 to 11, it is the foundation of all Christian
Definitely.
theology. So this is not something that we can take and say, well, we'll just grab spiritual lessons. But it begins with, in the beginning, God. This sets the stage. God is sovereign. God is in control. He's the one who created everything. He makes the rules. If we strip that away and we say, oh, well, this just evolved, or, 101 other reasons why things happen, then we lose our theological understanding of the fact that God is in control. God is in charge of this world. So there's the issue of the sovereignty of God. He is in charge. But then in addition to that, it also tells us what the problem is with the world. The world was created good. So how did it get to the point that we're at today where we look around and what we see is bad and problems? Well, it tells us the actual story of the fall of humanity. And funny enough, when you go to Genesis 3 and you read the story of the fall, everything is the same problem as we have today. The devil came along and he said, well, God doesn't know what he's talking about. He lied to you, actually. He's holding back all the good things from you. And if you go my way, you can be your own God. You can choose what's good and what's bad for yourself. You don't need God. And when we look at sin today, when we look at all of the problems of ourselves and of our society, they boil down to the same issue. So if we don't understand Genesis 3 as real, as actually the story of how humanity actually fell, then we're going to miss the solution. We're going to miss the way to solve the problem. When we go back then and we look through the following chapters all the way to 11, we see humanity's attempts to fix themselves, to be good enough in themselves. And time after time after time, we're not good enough. We can't fix ourselves. We don't have the answer. You even see things like in the flood. God comes along and sees the wickedness of the world, and he says, okay, I'm going to kill every single wicked person. We've often had people ask that question. If God is so powerful, why doesn't he just wipe out evil? Well, he did. He actually showed that that's not enough. You cannot actually just kill all the bad people and leave only the righteous people. Because what happened? Well, very quickly, the righteous people went back to being just as unrighteous as everyone else.
Exactly.
So an external thing, even as drastic as wiping out every unbeliever, is not enough to save humanity. There has to be a different answer. There has to be a solution. So then it points in the first 11 chapters already to the true solution. When you go into Genesis 3, in the middle of the fall, in the middle of the worst calamity that's ever happened to humanity, you actually have God giving what we call the proto-evangelion, the first gospel.
Yeah.
God says, even though the serpent will strike his heel, he will crush your head. Right at the beginning, in the midst of the sin, God is showing his redemptiveness. A lot of people miss the fact that God knew everything that was going on. But when God comes and walks in the garden, what does he do? Adam, where are you?
Yeah.
He calls us to himself and gives us the opportunity to come to him and say, I've messed up. But of course, in our wickedness and our foolishness, our answer is, well, it's somebody else's fault. We blame someone else. All this hasn't changed. It's the same problem. My wife is the problem. It's not me. Or always someone else, something else. It's the government's fault. And the Bible shows us that it's us. It's our heart that's wicked. And nothing we do can fix it. So Genesis 1-11 provides the core foundation. Who's in charge? What's the problem? We can't fix it ourselves. And it points us to the solution in Christ. Every word of the Old Testament oozes Christ. And that's no exception in Genesis 1-11.
Ostali bez reči. Da, nekada kada čujemo postanje, svesni smo da je to početak, ali možda nismo toliko svesni koliko je to temelj svega. Znaš, odavde počinje priče pada u greh. Prvo, naravno, stvorenje, kako Bog stvorio nas na njegovu slici, ali pad. I koje je rješenje tog pada? 3.15. Seme koji treba da dođe. I cijela priča se tako odvija odavde i prati se to seme. Ko je to seme koji će doći? Gde se ispunjava?
Priča o krstu počinje upravo tamo u haosu. Tako da Postanje 1-11 jeste ogledalo ostatka Svetog pisma i ogledalo onoga ko mi jesmo sami po sebi i ko možemo biti u našem spasu i Gospodu Hristu. Tako da, Metju, hvala puno za ovo i verujem da je ohrabrenje svakom ko sluša. Tako da, eto, na samom kraju vas pozdravljamo i
ohrabrujemo.
Da.
Čitajmo Sveto pismo. Stari zavet. Vraćajmo se
i tražimo Hrista u njemu.
Tako je. I kada evangeliziramo, moramo se vratiti na početku. Vratimo se gdje je počela problem. Ok, ne idemo sad u evangelizaciji, to će biti neki drugi podcast koji ćemo imati, ali možemo jedan pozdrav? PTŠ pozdrav?
Može.
Ćao!
Ćao, pozdrav!
Ćao!